station like us.
Oh, my.
It's time to drop the puck.
How excited are you for the Masters draft on Wednesday, and good morning?
Yeah, I was just going to ask you when I'm invited to your seminar on selecting the right group.
You want to start the joke, the whole joke over? I mean, it sounds like you're going down bit mode.
Yeah,
I don't understand what you're saying. So 3-2.
Okay, I'm very excited for the Masters. It's very, very probably my second most enjoyable tournament that we get to watch of the majors. Mm-hmm. So I'm very excited.
I don't know.
How about yourself?
Well, yeah, I am, but I mean, you started. I'm glad you caught yourself because you were starting.
Thank you.
You were starting to say, "I can't wait to attend your seminar, Paul," which is for those like you who don't watch or follow golf, but win one or two of these majors pools every single year until you realized that my system that I was using for like 10 years that helped me house several of them no longer works. So I am in system transition mode right now. And
why would you say that? Why would you say that? Last year was difficult, but we all had a difficult year, correct?
I don't think I've won one 2 years in a row for the first time in the history of the pool.
Oh, I think 2 years ago, I think you won two, but my mind may, I may have mental lapses. That being said, we all had difficulty last year. We certainly had difficulty with the first one this year, but you know what? We get to do another one, and it's this week.
Who are you taking in the first round? Come on, man.
John Rahm.
Yeah, John Rahm, taking John Rahm.
He won it for me last year.
Rob, John Rahm is steamy. He opened at 20-1. He's now 12-1. So the question is, who's betting on him, the whales or the squares?
I guess we'll have to wait and see. But if he's available when I am selecting, he's certainly he's at the top of my list. Mm-hmm. How about yourself?
John Rahm. I'll probably John Rahm. I'll take John.
I am 100% staying away from Scotty Scheffler,
and I'm 100% staying away from John Rahm.
Little puck talk.
Hey, with the Minnesota Wild and Pat Micheletti, the man on the mural. At Pat Mick 2626 via X, at Pat Mick 2626 via X. He's a weekly component, 9 to noon, and we love him. Now, with the Wild yesterday, man, you needed a stiff drink to get through it, but they beat they beat the Wings in regulation, and just like you said last Tuesday, Mick Tocchet, let's not worry about Kirill Kaprizov. He'll be fine, and he had a hat trick yesterday.
Yeah, he and Matt Boldy are starting to heat up, aren't they? And I mean, they're. Who are we kidding? If those guys aren't producing offensively, your team's not going to win. And the same can be said with with other teams and their top players. So you need your top guys going, and those guys are starting to heat up again after a little dry spell. But, I know you and I were not worried about either of those two players, and to have them start heating up at the right time is critical.
Ryan Hartman has caught fire at the right time. 8 points in the last 4, 2 goals against the Couve and Ottawa. Now, Hartsy's been steady and quite good the last month, but man, he's on fire right now. How important is that for the squad?
Well, I mean, anytime he scores a goal, it's a bonus. I think he's up to 20 now. But you're right; he's one of those silent guys that we don't talk about because of Boldy and Kaprizov. But what else he adds to your lineup, right? I mean, he's got grit. He'll challenge anybody. He's a pest, and let's not forget, I think he was their best player in the playoffs a year ago. And so, whatever the last playoff they were in. And so, if he gets going, if he keeps playing the way he's playing, boy, that's going to be really, really helpful in the playoffs for this team.
Heinze joins 9 to noon tomorrow, right out of the gate at 9 o'clock. Box in the Box at Tria, Kraken in town. Heinze at 9 a.m. tomorrow. And you touched on this with Boldy and Kaprizov. I'd like to add to it. For the Minnesota Wild, the stars are shining at the right time. Boldy, Kaprizov. I think Faber is playing as well right now as he's played all year. Then you got Husey. I mean, they're all playing extremely well, but no surprise to Mick Tocchet, right?
Not at all. I mean, that's what great players do, right? And those guys are going to have to, they're going to have to be better than Rupe Hintz and Rantanens and Heiskanen and those type of players for Dallas. And I listen. I think it's going to be a great series. And again, the one concern I have is their goaltending, and is the goaltending going to hold up? And if that, because I'm very, very happy with the way the D-Corps is playing. I love the depth that we have now, and I think Nick Foligno really brings something to that bench that is going to be really impactful in the playoffs. So if we can get good goaltending, whether it be Gustafsson or Volstead, I think that's going to be the key throughout the whole playoffs for them.
I mean, you know this better than anybody, but alas, here we are with 5 to go. And if the Wild can win the rest of its games, and you get Dallas to tie or lose one, the state of hockey gets home ice in round 1. Now, the Wild has Seattle tomorrow night here, then at Dallas Thursday. Got to have that one, obviously. Then at Nashville, at St. Louis, Anaheim here to close. First, can they win them all with the way they're playing right now?
Well, I think they can. The only caveat to that is if you look at all of a sudden the St. Louis Blues are back in the hunt for a playoff spot. They were dead in the water a month ago, and now all of a sudden they are 3 points behind Nashville for that last wild card spot. You have a bunch of teams. You have LA at 81. You have Nashville at 81, although Nashville has a tiebreaker right now. You've got the Blues at 78, and I'm missing a team, whether I think it's the Winnipeg Jets, also in the mix at 78. And so, those teams, it depends on, like tonight, Nashville plays at Los Angeles. Talk about an important game for that last wild card spot. So, do the Kings win and, jump up? And does that, there's so many factors that play into it. But to answer your question, yes, they certainly, the schedule you laid out, they can win all 5.
All right. So Dallas with a handful. Dallas at home, Calgary tomorrow night. Then they host the Wild Thursday. Then they host the Rangers and your guys Zibanejad on Saturday. Then at Toronto and at Tage Thompson. What do you make of that quintet of games to finish for the Big D?
Well, I think the game against the Rangers is really going to be intriguing. And I say that because the Rangers all of a sudden are playing the spoiler role. Yesterday at home, they beat a Washington Capitals team that is 2 or 3 points out of a playoff spot. And they smoked them 7-1, I think the final was. And so all of a sudden, the Rangers are, as of late, are playing really, really good hockey. And so that's going to be a tough one. Calgary, I can't recall who they beat, another playoff team the other night. I'm sorry, but it slips my mind. But Calgary is starting to play a little bit better. Not an easy schedule for Dallas. It may look so on paper, but it really isn't. So, can they? Of course they can, because look at what they've done all season. But, one loss one loss by any of these teams kind of clinches it for the other. So it'll be fun down the stretch here.
Frozen Four teams in Vegas this weekend. Michigan gets Denver, and Wisconsin plays North Dakota. What did Badgers coach Mike Hastings have to say on Beyond the Pond?
Well, he said, because I asked him, you guys enter start the Big Ten playoffs, and you get smoked at home 7-2 by Ohio State, and then you're off for 2.5 weeks. And he said, Mick, we had a reset. I gave the guys 3 days off, and it was their basically their whole team, their leadership group or whoever just had a reset. And they got the rest, they got healthy, and they went into that region where I thought they would not come out of it. And they did. And so, their big players came to play. And Quinn Finley was one of the best players in the country. And Ben Dexheimer back on defense. Both were terrific in that tournament and led them to the Frozen Four.
Does 3/4 of the Frozen Four make you, down memory lane we go, nostalgic? Or does it frustrate you and old school college hockey fans? And what I mean is, it has an old school WCHA feel with everybody but Michigan, right?
We almost had 4.
Yeah.
We almost had 4. And what a game the UMD Bulldogs played against Michigan after being down 3-0 and coming back. And literally for the back half of the game, they were the better team, and Michigan hung on. So we could have had 4, which would have been really nice. And do I think college hockey needs a lot of tweaks? Yes, but it is what it is. And but we got 3 of them in, so I'm happy about that.
And new Gophers coach Brett Larson told 9 to noon last week in studio on Wednesday. Fixing and/or fortifying the blue line is priority number 1. What does the man on the mural make of all that?
It had to be done, and will be done. You do not win in college hockey unless you have mobile, puck-moving, offensive defensemen, and that's what Minnesota sorely lacked a year ago. Hence I don't even know, what they have, 11 wins, 12. 11, whatever. That's in the past. And so having that is going to make the team so much better than it was a year ago. And so I'm looking forward to see the final product that, once the roster is constructed.
Chat with you on the radio next Monday. Thanks for the time, Patrick.
Thanks. Bye-bye.
See you, buddy. Pat Micheletti. It's Minnesota Hockey Immortality at Pat Mick 2626, at Pat Mick 2626 via X, at Pete Bercich via X, analyst for the Vikings Audio Network. He joins now. Alrighty, now let's re-engage with in-booth analyst for Minnesota Vikings football here on KFAN, and former Vikings player and coach Pete Bercich joins 9 to noon with the NFL draft 2.5 weeks away, and also some new things taking place at Pete's YouTube channel. Via YouTube, it's Eye in the Sky, Pete Bercich 56 to learn more. Put that in the search bar and have a good old time. The Spam Cast. The Spam Cast with you and former Vikings running back Robert Smith. What are you guys doing here, and good morning?
Yeah, good morning. Robert, I've talked to Robert about this for a while, for long. And recently, Robert's, he said, he wanted to do something. He wanted to, get on. And, Robert has a lot to say. And not everything has to do, has necessarily to deal with football. So, it's a good opportunity for he and I to sit down and chat. We talk about all things current, like current Vikings situations, current NFL situations, and then whatever else might pop up. But it's always I've talked to Robert for years, since I was coaching and been doing the radio here with the Vikings. So I understand how it's enjoyable to talk to Robert because he's just an interesting person, outside of football itself. That's kind of what we're doing. So kind of low key, but a ton of Robert has a ton of enthusiasm about all this, and it's just fun to sit down and chat with him. I think the fans would enjoy listening to what he has to say.
You and I have called games for a couple of decades now. Pete's first year as analyst for the Vikings radio network was 2007. I started in 2002 when Pete was a linebackers coach for the team. And I don't think I've really ever asked you this or gone down the road where like during the course of, our travels on the road and, whether it be coaches for other teams, people with whom you played when you played for the Vikings. We'll come across them every so often, or you'll mention the name Dixon Edwards every so often. But like the fact that you and Robert Smith have stayed friends as long as you have, you're coming up on 30 years now. Is that important to you, to keep those friendships from when you played in the 90s through the right around the 2000 NFC title game?
Yeah, I think so, and it's something that when you talk to players now, you try to let them know you don't need to keep in contact with everybody, with all of them. You just have to have a couple of really, really good friends, and because after you retire, life becomes it's about change because so much changes and your life changes so drastically. You spend your entire, years growing up dedicating yourself to the sport, moving around, doing this, going to college. It was all about football. Then all of a sudden you're 30 something years old and you're done. And now you're trying to start a family. You're trying to get a job. You're trying to get back kind of to real life. And it's just always good to have somebody that you've shared all these experiences with. They know you and you know them, and they truly know who you are. And that's kind of the beauty of the locker room.
Right.
It's too hard to BS your way through it. You can work with somebody in an office for a decade and not know what they do when they go home from work.
Right.
With the locker room with football, you know who you can count on, and you know who works hard and what they're really, really about. And to have those people in your life that are going to be truly honest with you when you throw something stupid up in the air or you bounce something off of them, that's unbelievably valuable. And they like you for the right reasons, and you're friends with them for the right reasons. It's necessary, I think, for guys to have a couple of former teammates to just be able to do that with.
Now, with this most recent Spamcast with former Vikings Pete Bercich and Robert Smith, a lot of humor and a lot of down memory lane we go stories are shared. The parts that I've watched, I'm really, really enjoying this. Again, you can find it via YouTube. In fact, with Pete, and his Twitter feed at Pete Bercich, you probably can start there, and that'll get you to the right spot.
And Paul, sorry, the latest one we did. I was out of town, whatever, but it was released on Spotify too. So from now on, it'll be on YouTube and Spotify, so they can look up Spamcast on Spotify if you want to listen to it there.
Spamcast Spotify. Make that appointment. Listening. The most recent one that I watched most of, about 60% into the Spamcast with Pete and Robert Smith. You guys got into Kyler Murray's diminutive nature. And there was some wisecracking, as there's wont to be with all of us. But when we start playing the games and stuff, we're going to recognize most likely the starting quarterback for the Minnesota Vikings, 5'10". And we've called Kyler games, and all of us have watched him make dynamic plays and also throw some punt passes that have ended games. Now you guys, you and Robert, like you guys never played with a 5'10" quarterback, did you?
No, we didn't. I mean, I got there. Warren Moon was quarterback. not towering, but still taller than Kyler Murray, and then Brad Johnson, 6'3", 6'4", whatever he is,
right.
Randall Cunningham, DeDonte. I mean, we've always, I've never played with a guy that that is that short or of that height. Now it's going to pose some challenges, right?
Mm-hmm.
And there are certain things I think that he can do, and that the offense will need to do to accommodate that. What they're going to be, we'll see. What they decide to do to accommodate for that. There's going to be some difficulties. It's just numbers, right? He's just not going to be able to see over an offensive line as well as some other quarterbacks have. And I think he's watching him on film going back even from 2 seasons ago to last year. What he can do is extend the play in the pocket. And when he does that, he can still make throws. And I think that part of his game is what I think Kevin O'Connell likes the most. His interceptions are when he tries to do too much, when he scrambles and he's under pressure and just kind of heaves one up in the air. But that means he's not throwing, dropping back and firing one down the field and throwing those types of interceptions. His mistakes are when he tries to do too much. So if they can get him to play kind of within himself in that regard, he's been a 2 TD to an interception ratio quarterback since he started. So that's been pretty consistent throughout his career. And if they can work on that and get that even a little bit better, I think he can do just fine. And you mentioned Drew Brees to me yesterday when we talked about this, and Drew Brees mastered the play action pass. So being under center, that's going to be, I think, one of the interesting parts is, are they going to say on base downs, you are going to be under center and we are going to use the bootleg and the play action, and you're going to, at least you're going to have to give a little bit on that. We're not just going to put you in a pistol all the time, because that's just not, how we run our offense. And if that's the case, I think, and if Kyler Murray buys into it and really wants to do this, I think he can become even more, as good of a quarterback as he's been over the last 7 years.
Well, you know better than anybody, man, because you've talked about it a lot, 9 to noon and during Vikings game calls. But to the Drew Brees point, he was 5'11", listed as 6 feet, but he was 5'11", 6 feet, very, very max. And he was HOF under center. And, in knowing the importance of executing plays from under center for a quarterback and the stress you put on the defense, wondering if a run or a pass is coming, that's vital in the National Football League. And what I've learned about Drew is that, when he would go under center and out of Purdue, he had to work really, really, really hard at this. But he would literally sprint back on his big drops. He literally would run. And it took a lot of post-practice work, getting the ball under center, running back on that 7-step drop, so you can properly get to the spot to see over the trees. And it just seems to me like Kyler is going to need to do the same if they run under center as much as maybe he has the last couple of years. But shoot, he barely did it at all early in his career. That all of this is important, right?
It is. And then what also is important is his pre-snap equity and the fact that he can get up to the line of scrimmage and see what a defense is trying to do. Because the defense could theoretically, if they want, and this is kind of the trend nowadays, is just blitz more people and fill those gaps and fill those lanes and not let the quarterback have those throwing lanes. You do that by applying pressure. And then there are other answers to that, getting rid of the football quickly, slants, those quick hitting type of plays. And the good news is he has the arm strength and accuracy all day long to do that. Yeah. And it's kind of, that's the if-then with Kyler Murray. It's not a question of whether or not this kid is accurate, because he is. Mm-hmm. He's a very, very accurate passer. We've seen him on the hoof. We have talked about that during games where third down situations, you might get him off of his spot, but he's still throwing an absolute dime to the tight end. I mean, he can get the football, he can thread the needle with it. And I'm sure with Kevin O'Connell in the offense, they just want to get more of that and find more ways of doing that. And then, again, the answer to pressure or what defenses are probably going to do is making those pre-snap reads, right? Making a good decision. And I think he's capable of doing that. It's, again, Paul, it comes down to what, how much does Kyler Murray really want to buy into this?
Right.
How much does he truly believe in what Kevin O'Connell wants to do and how they want that to look? Because if he does, I think that's really going to work. If not, then it's going to be a bit of a square peg, round hole type situation. And are we willing to revamp our entire offense and formation-wise and all that to try to accommodate, what he wants to do? I don't know. That's when problems can happen, and it can be that can be the tough part of the marriage if it goes that way, which I really don't think it's going to.
Right. Pete Bercich, 9 to noon, and really all Kyler would need to do, not that it's going to happen, is call Sam Darnold, because Sam absolutely got here with his ideas, was open to O'Connell and the team's ideas. And, now he's got himself $100+ million deal and hoisting the Lombardi trophy. So, Sam had to change several things to acquiesce and make things work here. And, I'm like you. I do believe Kyler will do the same. But with your Spamcast on YouTube and or Spotify with the great Robert Smith, I'm a Robert Smith fan, as a person with his knowledge and certainly, with the galloping, high stepping nature when he was a running back for the Minnesota Vikings. Robert was fantastic. What made your former teammate Robert Smith a high end back when he played?
Robert had excellent vision, and he was able to make moves and not really break stride. And once Robert got into his stride, because when you watch him run, he doesn't really look like he's running all that fast.
Yep.
And you have to understand each one of, he was a track guy, right? So each one of his strides was a couple yards long. So he wasn't taking a lot of steps because he didn't have to. But I think that was if he got to that second level and the defenses didn't make him do something to make him cut or bounce outside or move some type of way horizontally, he was gone. If you just kept him straight up and down, he was gone. And with his combination with Leroy Horde, when Leroy was the deep red zone short yardage guy. I mean, Robert, I think his average touchdown carry, or the average length of his touchdown carries were every bit as long as Barry Sanders. If I'm not mistaken, he's right up there with Barry. If not number one, he's number two.
Jeez.
Just career-wise, just because that's what he did. He had that breakaway speed, and you get him in the open, and he was absolutely gone. And he ran a little bit up and down, straight up and down, and he took a lot of hits, and he was tough. He had some injuries that he dealt with. They were a little bit freakish here and there. But ironically, when he talks about his last season was the only season that he got through it without really any injuries or having to have anything done to him at the end of the year. So he finally, after 8-9 seasons, got through one injury free. And so that was his thing, man. It's as a defense, if you don't make him break down or shift or bounce the ball, but if you don't stop him north and south, man, the guy was just too fast. He was just way too fast.
We have our yearly draft show at U.S. Bank Stadium in a couple of weeks with our current guest, Pete Bercich, also Ben Lieber and Paul Charchian. They'll be there. Where are you with the Vikings at 18?
Paul, I'm still digging in and digging through everything. But I do believe that at 18, if you have to look at needs, you always do. We still need to figure out what we're going to do at the starting center. Brandel might be an opportunity. But we'll see. I'm sure they would like to shore that out. And then there's still the safety position. I know we've been talking about Tiedemann for a long time. He's still a guy that you have to look at with how dynamic he is and how he would fit in this defensive system. I wouldn't be surprised if they decide to go to defensive tackle either. I mean, as much as Hargrave and Allen, they're both gone. You still have to replace that time on the field.
Yeah.
Regardless of who's going to be the starter, you still need some bodies there at that position. Jordan Anderson being back, I don't know. I don't think wide receiver is going to be as much of a need, but those things I think are all going to come into play. The future of the tackle position, right? How long are Darrison O'Neal going to play? Will you have an opportunity to find one of those guys? I'm sure if there is a tackle there that they didn't expect to be, a lot of conversation about that as well. So I think with Bercich in charge, and with the way they have things set up, they're not going to be leaning on need, I think, as much. But whoever they get, I think you're going to see, no matter who they draft, you're going to see a lot of them. They're going to be a starter. So it's just a matter of plug them in.
So do you think, casting the gaze forward, do you think the backfield will mostly be Aaron Jones and Jordan Mason, or do you think that there's a decent chance that they'll draft somebody who plays now?
Yeah, I think that's the thing with the running back spot is just, I think they have some time, right, in that regard, in that where you don't need somebody opening day, right? You're going to need somebody, I think, further on down the road. With Jordan Mason and just the age that you have back there. So you may have a little bit of time to bring a young guy along. But again, if there's a running back that's sitting there at that spot,
right.
I would be surprised if they went after that as well. Just, I think it's less likely because, you already have two. And if you just get a third guy to sprinkle in and let him have a good year and then maybe have some options at the end of it, I just don't see that being a first-round position that they'll go after unless, again, somebody that's a no-brainer is sitting there on the board.
Time for two more for the analyst. We talked about Kyler Murray. They've re-signed Carson Wentz. Of course, you have J.J. McCarthy and Max Brosmer still in the mix. With a right to change this opinion, obviously. Do you think J.J. McCarthy sees the field in 2026?
If you're a gambling guy, yes, I think you do. Only because of Kyler Murray's history, throughout the last, even if he becomes is anointed the starter going into the season,
right?
He's been nicked up. He's missed some games every year. So I think in that regard, you're going to need to go to your backup quarterback at least a few times this year. The question is who is that going to be? Is that backup going to be Carson Wentz, or is it going to be J.J. McCarthy? I would assume in that regard it will be J.J. McCarthy. So I think, we'll see him start a few games at some point this season, no matter who's anointed the starter. But J.J.'s got his work cut out for him, right? It's a different camp for him going into this year, and he's going to have to work. He's going to have to earn it. And we've heard about him being out in California and doing so. He's working now, but it's not going to be the same feel, the same vibe, the same anything for him going into this training camp. He's not the guy. He's not the man that everybody's waiting on. He's competing right now for not only the near future, but the long-term future of him playing that position. And that's, unfortunately, that's the NFL. No one's really given anything, and you got to go out there and earn it. And maybe that will take him to the next level. And he may get his chance and then never look back.
Right.
So, but the Vikings have to do what they have to do to make sure that we can get to the playoffs. And that position at quarterback was a bit of a thorn on our side from last year. They had to fix it. They did, and here we go. So, yeah, I think JJ will get a chance to start some games this year, and we'll see what he does with it.
All right, lastly, 2 minutes, you get it all. What's more probable with this Vikings draft? And you can identify the perceived plum picks, which would be Thursday and Friday, or just draft in totality. What's more probable? Amplifying the offense early or plugging perceived defensive holes up and down this thing?
I think defensively you have more spots where if you draft somebody, they're gonna be playing a lot. They're going to be starting, right? We have center. You have Addison and Jefferson, a wide receiver. So no matter who you draft, they're going to be at best a number 3. You know what I'm saying? Even at running back, you've got Aaron Jones and Jordan Mason. You have enough quarterbacks. The offensive line, for the most part, is pretty well set up. So no one's, maybe tight end, right? Maybe if you found a tight. My point is you draft a safety, you draft an interior defensive lineman. On defense, the only spots that are really for sure nailed down are right now are the outside linebacker positions. Inside linebacker positions for the most part, but you get a D lineman, you get a safety, you get a corner, you're going to have a guy that's going to be on the field quite a bit. So that utility and that value by getting that first round draft pick on the field is much more likely to happen on the defensive side, which is why I think they're going to end up going that way. I mean, if you're a safety, you're on the field day one, and you're going to get the most out of that investment, because we haven't seen it. That's one of the biggest problems that we haven't seen over the last few years, and is getting those young guys out on the field. So the shortest path to getting them on the field is on the defensive side of the ball.
The analyst with some 2026 draft intel. News du Nord is next.
It's News du Nord, 9 to noon, and it's always brought to you by V Casino at Canterbury Park, CanterburyPark.com. I'm already getting to the text line, PA. People like, hey, when are you guys going to start feeling out a little, maybe some practice races for the Derby? Fastest 2 minutes. I heard the spot during the break. How about that? Derby day is upon us. But while you wait, my favorite place in Shakopee also offers poker, blackjack, and table games all year round. You're having sips and chips, saying hey to Derek Allen, and patiently awaiting not only a Derby day with the giant hats and the mint juleps, but the live racing season in totality. You can find it, all the info at the least. Just go to CanterburyPark.com. For the Minnesota Twins, their home opener over the weekend, it started with a blast from Tristan Gray.
Where he has a sac fly RBI already today. Yeah, the 1-1 from Gomez. Line to right field, down the line, deep it goes, near the wall. That is gone! It's a grand slam for Tristan Gray! Down the right field line! And the Twins break it open! It is now 10-3 here at Target Field.
Yeah, 10-4 the final on Friday. All the loyal and hardcore baseball fans got paid off at the home opener with a 10-4 shellacking. The Twins beating on the Rays. Rays would find their way through it, though. They end up meatloafing the Twins. They win 7-1 and 4-1 Saturday and Sunday. Casey Mize on the mound today for the visiting Detroit Tigers. Your guy, Joe Ryan, will start for the Twins. So best of luck to the baseball team, of course.
Interested to see what JoJo does tonight. And here's why. Because when watching the season opener against Baltimore, a lot of the commentating from the learned commentators was how Joe had been pushing through some things end of spring training.
Yeah.
And it was a lot of covenant collapse for, what's up, Pete Fox? A lot of covenant collapse for pushing through, got his velocity close to where it needed to be. But for me, I was listening to it, and I was kind of like, wow, is he on borrowed time right now until whatever is happening improves? So then in his next start, I can't remember who it was against. It might have been KC. He got knocked around.
It was Kansas City, and he got worked pretty good.
Yeah. So now it's a Tigers team that's most likely going to win the division. You billed it earlier in the weekend wrap, courtesy of Northern Fire, as a high-end pitching matchup, which, you got JoJo, the best going for the Twins. Skubal is the best going for the Tigers, but this Casey Mize ain't no joke.
Yeah.
And when you deep dive his game logs this year, what he did in spring training and just his trajectory, wow. So we're catching a pretty good one tonight. Hitting outside of Friday night's been a problem. So just prepare yourselves for the Colt Keith, Riley Green, and Kerry Carpenters of the world, and hopefully you get some decent weather.
To the Minnesota Wild, they handled the Ottawa Senators.
Off the boards where Spence will gather. Spence spinning at the offensive blue line, turn it over. The Wild trying to gallop ahead, and Zuccarello with Hartman. Hartman's open in front, Zuccarello through one that way. Hartman scores!
Oh, boy.
A bit of a jailbreak for the Wild, and Ryan Hartman's got to go on 4 straight. It's 2-0 Minnesota.
Oh, boy. 4-1 the final there. And then yesterday, just frustrated. And Kaprizov gets a hat trick, so let's play the good.
Hughes back to Boldy, top of the right circle with a shot that glanced wide. 40 to go in the power play. Hughes to keep in left point to Boldy. A one-timer kicked out by Talbot. Rebound for Kaprizov. It was blocked as Albert Johansson blocked it out in front. Now Hughes down low for Kaprizov. He whiffed on it from the side of the cage. Boldy keeps in. Boldy uses the ice in front of him through the high slot. Now left circle. Couldn't get a shot through. He'll twist back. It's handed to the point with 20 to go on the man advantage. Boldy to Kaprizov. A shot. He scores! A rocket of a one-timer. It's a hat trick. The 6th career regular season hat trick for Kirill Kaprizov. And with $1:51 to go, the Wild have a 5-4 lead.
Man, it's crazy the thin margins this team has operated on at times this year, where just following that game, I'm thinking this is a meltdown, man. Patrick Kane just tied this thing up, and Detroit's fighting for their postseason lives. And we're going to find our way to the extra session. Hopefully we find our way to 2 points. But my goodness, just close out these freaking games in regulation, please. Well, then Patrick Kane, I mentioned him. He scores the game-tying goal. Like a few minutes later, one of the more ridiculously dumb penalties you'll see, especially from one of the greatest North American skaters ever. And on the ensuing power play, it's a hat trick for Kaprizov, the 6th of his career. You heard it from Joe and Tom right there. And the Minnesota Wild just 2 points behind the Dallas Stars now, both with 77 games. There is a matchup in Dallas on the remaining schedule. Some scoreboard watching as we close down the regular season and to see who hosts game 1. That's going to be fun, man.
The Kaprizov snipe that you just heard Wild Joe describe. I can't recall every single Kaprizov goal scored in the history of Kirill Kaprizov. There can't be many better than that. I mean, what a howitzer. Top left, in the business they call it bar down, and the goaltender had 98% of the whole thing covered.
Yeah.
There's one place that thing can go, and Kirill found it. So my man's on fire after that hat trick, but that snipe, wow. I mean, that was a bar down beauty.
It was indeed. We're going to put a wrap on the Canterbury Card Casino's News du Nord segment because, of course, there's college hoops. We want to chat about the Wolves. That's all newsy, but I think our next guest to kick off the final hour is going to be able to help us with that, PA.
The first question for Parker Fox, Elite Basketball Mind, it's low-hanging fruit, but I can't wait to hear what he has to say. How does UConn beat this Michigan machine? And are we being prisoners of the moment of what we saw last game? Oh, no, wait, it was the game before, too. Oh, no, wait, it was the game before that. How does UConn win tonight as a 7.5-point dog? P. Fox joins us 9 to noon after this.